I want to switch gears a little bit and I want to go and bring up centralization. There's a lot of conversations about centralization in our industry. So I would like to ask you, is centralization just the buzzword for the moment? Is it a real thing? Is it a combination or somewhere in between the two? What's your take on centralization in multifamily?
Ooh, well, interesting today. I mentioned earlier I attended the NAA Operations Committee meeting, and centralization has been the topic du jour of that meeting for a couple of years now. I don't think it's a fad. I don't think it's a buzzword. I think it is about efficiency and all the things that are going to be required of us. I mean, one of the things that we talked about is how we were talking about today centralization in two areas. First and foremost, with services. A woman in the meeting brought up the fact that she has heard several operators are using centralization for things like accounting services. And that's not a big conversation in our industry right now, but it is a challenge for firms to hire and retain the talent of accounting. It's a highly sought after skill, and they're often entry level positions that they're hiring, and we're competing with lots of other industries because every industry has accounting. That was one level of centralization. And then the other thing about centralization is that with all of the rising costs that owners of apartment buildings are facing today, if you only focused on taxes and insurance, which has been a huge subject, especially at the Advocate Conference this week, where people are meeting with, all of their representatives about what we need to continue being successful in this industry, having the ability to create efficiencies in operation expenses is critical. So I think that there will always be varying degrees of what centralization looks like. Like centralization for a, third party operator who doesn't own the, buildings that they're managing is always going to look different than centralization for a smaller operator who might have the ability to be nimble because of their geographic footprint. Those kinds of variables are going to exist, but there's no doubt it's here to stay, and it's going to be, the National Apartment Association is going to be looked upon to share data. We talked today in this operations committee meeting about some of the subjects that we would like to see data shared when it comes to centralization, and something like collections and accounts receivable came up. And there is someone on the committee who represents a collections firm. And he said, I would love to share some data because centralizing something like collections could really impact in the most favorable of ways an owner's ability to get their money back. And when we as an industry who have gone through things like COVID over the last 4 years, there are still areas of the country that are trying to catch up from evictions that were filed in 2020 and 2021. That is wildly impactful. So centralization from all of these different angles, it's here to stay. And I think it's going to be a very relevant conversation and something that's going to have varying degrees of impact for the different operators and the different owners in this industry.